All right, welcome to Lizards of the Toast. And this is a special video because it's a request video. And this deck is funny because I had this request. I put this deck together, then I got the request. And the request was, what do I think is the best deck? Because I always say I don't think Burn is a great deck for beginners in Modern. Um, I don't think Burn is a great deck for beginners to Magic. We're probably going to work on do like a beginners series on here. As you see in my playlist, there's an empty playlist for beginners. So let's get right into it. What does this? That's a camel. All right, excuse me. I gotta have things. I need these props. See, isn't this cute? All right, we're gonna keep that there. This was a gift. It's a gift. Look at that. It even moves. Kind of nice. So I digress. What do I think is a good deck for a beginner? I think this is a good example of it, and I think a lot of the other decks in this budget series are really good for it. This deck has been tested through and through. And now having it on the channel, we'll see it go against our other favorite decks on this channel, and we're going to really put this one through the map. So let's get right into it. We're going to need that monster token. It's a monster deck on a tiny, teeny, weeny budget. So let's get that monster token. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has trample. We don't care about that sorcerer thing at all. So it's a red deck. We're running Monastery Swiftspear. Let's go through here. Sure. Okay. So very tight creature base here. We have Monastery Swiftspear. Wonderful card. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. Of course we do. And kind of like Monastery Swiftspear, but different is the Soul Scar Mage there with that crazy cool haircut, right? Kind of like a sideways mohawk. My friend, your mohawk was blown over. That's unfortunate. You got to use some Elmer's glue for the power spike. So prowess, 1 red. Interesting there, putting the -1/-1 counters on something. That can be very useful. 4 of those. Now here's an old layover, as it were. Kiln Fiend. I will just say this card has done wonderful things in this deck. Does it die to removal? It does. But can we save it with mutagenic growth and things? We can. So we have 4 of these in here. Absolutely love this. And I will say this is not a breach deck, and I do not like to run. I know people criticize me for this, but I'll explain it in the deck explanation. There is no Dr. C in here. And if you're a new player, Dr. C is the Dragon's Rage Channeler, which is one of my favorite cards in Magic and one of my favorite cards in Modern. So I think it's a great card, but it's not great in this deck. Kiln Fiend, with what it does, is just so much better. I like Kiln Fiend a lot more, even though it's twice as much casting cost. This one just so much better in the deck. We don't run Underworld Breach in here. Now, if you wanted to up the ante and later after you played Magic wanted to add Underworld Breach, I think that would be great. And I think then you could work out a Kiln Fiend or two and go for like a play set of Dr. C, Dragon's Rage Channeler. 2 Bone Crusher Giants is kind of like a top-end threat here. Plus, we have this wonderful Stomp Adventure. Damage can't be prevented this turn. Stomp deals 2 damage to any target. So that's going to take out a lot of things. 2 damage is quite a bit to a creature in Modern. Plus, we will have a giant on the board to cast from Adventure. There's 2 of those there in the main board. Now, here's an interesting one. We have Gut Shot in here. I've ran 3 of these in here, and I just don't feel good about it. There's 2 Gut Shot. So Gut Shot deals 1 damage to target creature or player. We can pay 2 Phyrexian. This is going to remove creatures, and it's also going to trigger our prowess. So say, turn 3, we have a Kiln Fiend ready to rock and roll, and a couple of Monastery Swiftspears in our hand. Something like that Gut Shot there is going to be very valuable because we'll pay life. We will pay our life to do that. And that will trigger prowess, and that will trigger Kiln Fiend for our instant and or sorcery. So 2 gut shots. Now here's another instant that almost, if it wasn't for other cards that are really good in the deck, I would probably say you could run 4 of these. But then you're getting into Gruul Prowess, which is Gruul Prowess is different than this deck. I will say it's very similar, but very different as well. More of a breach. So Mutagenic Growth can be paid. It's got that Phyrexian mana. You can pay with 2 life. You get a couple of these in your opening hand. Really good things can happen for you with this deck. So here's where that monster token comes in. So with these Prowess, we have 4 of these new Monstrous Rage. I think this is great. This kind of inspired this deck to go in this direction. So this wonderful enchantment, target creature gets +2/+0. Our Prowess creatures is going to be +2, +3/+0. And think of the big dog over here. The Kiln Fiend gets +3/+0 until end of turn. So it's really, the Kiln Fiend is going to be huge. The Kiln Fiend will get +5/+0 until end of turn. And then create a monster roll token attached to it. So if you control another roll on it, put that one into the graveyard. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1 and has trample. So this is going to give a counter as well as the counter there until end of turn. It's going to get that counter for the enchantment, and it's going to have trample. Bang, bang, bang. Very good. Love this card. Play set all day long. And that's why it's thinned out gut shot. Oh, I'm doing the dexplanation. You got to join me in the dexplanation. All right. Lightning Bolt. 3 damage. Target creature or player. This is our nice control and face damage. And then this one, if you get this into your hand, I actually run 1 of these in my Prowess deck. It is the foil version of this. And I actually like this version better. However, 1 of these, and if you get this into your hand, hold on to it. Hold on to it. The only way you wouldn't want to hold on to this is if you're going against 8-rack or something that's going to make you discard. Because this is something that when you cast all these spells and get all the Prowess triggers going, this is a deal sealer. It's a sealer of deals, my friend. A sealer of deals. You know what a seal does? A seal seals deals like this. Or they don't even write their name on a thing when they seal the deal. They just take their flipper and go or. That's a joke. All right. Lava Spike. Lava Spike deals 3 damage to target player. 2 of these in here because it's 1 mana. It deals 3 damage. It's going to trigger our Prowess. Okay. And that 3 damage with the Prowess trigger, just very good. In addition to our Lightning Bolts. Skewer the Critics. Now here is where things get interesting in our little sorcery department here. All right. So Skewer the Critics. It's got a spectacle cost. Cast this spell for its spectacle cost rather than pay that mana cost if an opponent lost life this turn. Now, how cool would it be if Skewer the Critics was an instant, right? I've always thought that. When this card first came out, I was like, when I first looked at I was like, it's an instant, but it's not. Be kind of neat. Really, you could build some kind of archetype around that alone, but I digress. So we have 3 Skewer the Critics, which that spectacle cost, just going to be dealing that damage through for 1, because we're going to deal damage. We're not playing this deck right if we're not dealing a little bit of damage to our opponents almost every turn. 99% of the time, they're going to take some damage. So that spectacle cost, that's pretty much a given. But as you see, there's only 3 of these in here because it's restrictive in that way. So 3 is all we want. We don't want to draw too many of these. We have Assault Strobe. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. There are 2 of these in the deck. And these 2 are one, hold on to it. This teaches a player to like know when to hold them and know when to fold them. You know what I mean? So this teaches a player like, hey, I'm going to sit on this and wait. This isn't something, you know, you don't want to play some Monastery Swift Spear and then on turn 2, just do this, you know. This is something for a special instance when you have something really beefed up and something to really deliver at home. In fact, casting these two on two creatures is great. So to keep our hand full, we have light up the stage. It has a spectacle cost. So the way this is set up, there's 3 of these as well. See how there's 3 of those? See how that works? These spectacle spells, sorceries here. They, in a way, I think I found like the happy medium here, because we want both card draw and we want to get that skewer the critics. Now, light up the stage. Sure, it could be a Manamorphose if you were playing a less budget deck. But if this was a Manamorphose, that's a different direction. Could definitely trigger the prowess differently. Now, this is where it gets kind of fun. So we have 4 Mishra's Bauble. And just to show you how much I appreciate this deck and am enjoying it as a veteran player of Magic, and I say I love this deck for beginners or people just getting into Magic, and especially for people that want to get into Modern on the cheap and actually like make a dent in their local game store Friday Night Magic, because this has done it. That's why I put these wonderful lands in here. So we'll go right through. We've got the those cool mountains, the Mountain Goat Mountains. We've got all 10 of them in here. So that's how much I respect the deck, is that I saw fit to put all my Mountain Goat lands in there. And then I have these very red-centric, look at those, very red, and the Hamburger Land. And those very, very red and orange. So I thought these looked really nice in here. There's that. Now let's do that sideboard, Tony. Tony, you want to see what's in the sideboard, buddy? Sure do, boss. Thank you, Lord. All right, Tony. We're running Gigantha as a big beater on the end. And I like it in the deck because, again, the new player will be introduced to the companion idea, which plays a small role in the formats in which it's utilized. Also, having a 5/5 you can take to your hand is really good. Cast into the fire. This is artifact hate, but it also deals 1 damage to each of up to 2 target creatures. So this can wipe the board of little blockers that'll get in our way, even though we have all that trample stuff. One way to think of this is a very interesting deck. I'm proud of this one because this one is built outside of like metagame influence in a sense. So this can exile an artifact. That's important for artifacts that need exiling, right? Cast into the fire, but that dealing 1 damage, getting blockers out of the way. So Tormod's Crypt, we're running 2 of these in here. We were running 3, but we're running 2 now. So sacrifice Tormod's Crypt. Exile target player's graveyard. That's graveyard hate. That's free. That's a trigger for us, right? Not necessarily for our Kiln Fiend, but it is a trigger for our other prowess, the prowess ladies and gentlemen there. So why don't I run 3? Because Stone of Eric came out while I was testing this deck, and I'm like, you know what? I like 1 of these in here, I think. That card draw's okay. And this stays on the board to continue doing Tormod's Crypt's thing. So that card draw's good. That presence of forcing our opponent to put some kind of artifact hate on our second round, you know, if they've fallen victim to one of these artifacts, if they're in our main board. Blood Moon, it's a mono red deck, and this was one, even though it's budget, I said, you know, you could do this, you could do that, but Blood Moon, just wonderful. 2 Dragon's Claw, could run 3, 2 seems to do. So if we're going against Burn, something like that, we got extra Bone Crusher Giant, so we can have 3 in there. Now this is where it gets real interesting. That Tunnel Ignis, okay? Tunnel Ignis, very interesting card, and I'm going to save this one for the Dexplanation. Because I gotta learn how to not Dexplain when I'm making a what is this? Exposition? A Dexposition. When I'm doing a Dexposition, I gotta work on not doing the Dexplanation too. So join me on the Dexplanation, please. Please join me. Please, I'm begging you. I'm begging you. Join me on the declaration there, Burn. Oh,